Well, AOC, and let me know if you believe this, is saying that MAGA Republicans are coming up to her and say, man, I was wrong about Trump. I'm with socialism now. Do you buy that?
Absolutely not. In fact, I'd like to see some of the people who actually said that to AOC and check their ballots and see if they actually voted for President Trump, because I can assure you MAGA Republicans oppose everything that AOC and the modern day Communist Democrat Party stands for. Mass migration and open borders like we saw under the Biden administration.
AOC is claiming that a wave of MAGA voters are ditching Trump with deep regret and planning to rally behind Democrats, fully committed to the DNC in 2028.
Men and women's sports is something MAGA Republicans and frankly the whole country rejects. It's a 90-10 issue, taxing people to death and taking their money and giving the majority of your income back to the government. That's a horrible idea that has not worked for thousands of years.
Karoline Leavitt isn't buying it for a second. She says AOC is completely wrong and just unleashed one of the most brutal responses of the entire year.
I fully welcome Trump voters into our coalition. And I know that sounds crazy to some people, but just hear me out. I cannot tell you, it just happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you how many times someone has pulled me aside and said either I was once a big Trump voter and a Trump supporter, but then I started to kind of expand my world and where I got information, and now I've learned and now I've changed and I'm with you.
If you are enjoying this video so far, please hit that subscribe button. That was AOC's message when she jumped onto social media. In her telling, many Trump voters backed Trump for one simple reason. They plant themselves in front of Fox News all day, absorb talking points, and never bother to think for themselves. In her version of reality, it couldn't possibly have anything to do with financial struggles under Biden, soaring grocery costs, painful gas prices, or rent that crossed into impossible territory. No, not that. She also dismisses the idea that voters were driven toward Trump by the flood of woke policies pouring out of the Biden administration, policies many Americans view as completely disconnected from real life. For AOC, it's all media-induced brainwashing, plain and simple, but that smug explanation didn't pass quietly. Karoline Leavitt heard AOC's remarks and had no intention of letting them stand. What came next was a sharp rebuttal that turned AOC's storyline upside down and exposed the arrogance beneath it.
The president just dealt with Chuck Schumer, and President Trump and Republicans shellacked Chuck Schumer and the entire Democrat Party. After 43 days of Chuck standing out there trying to bravely hold the country hostage and inflict massive pain on the American public, Chuck got absolutely nothing, and now the knives are out for him. As you can see, Jesse, as you just perfectly laid out in your monologue, the Democrat Party is in complete disarray, and the truth is, they have been for 10 years since President Trump came on the political scene.
The DNC has looked unsteady ever since Trump declared he was running for president again. From that point forward, it's been one frantic move after another, with clear strategy giving way to confusion. It helps explain the non-stop accusations thrown his way, followed by flashy investigations and courtroom battles that teased explosive revelations but ultimately produced little to show for it. It explains the Russia collusion saga that consumed headlines for years, a story many Republicans say never backed up the promises Democrats made. It also explains the steady stream of insults and dismissive labels as though mockery could replace a compelling argument. And yet, through all of it, the scandals, the trials, the media storms, nothing ever seems to land. Over and over, the attacks failed to fracture Trump's base or slow his momentum. If anything, they seem to strengthen his support and reveal just how shaken his critics have become.
They don't stand for anything good. They just stand for Donald Trump is bad. That's the only thing that unifies their party. And now you see how far they are moving to the left. They ran Senator Gillibrand and Senator Manchin out of town. Now they're running Chucky Schumer out of town. It's too bad he turned into a Palestinian. He did it for nothing, like President Trump says, because his own party is turning against him. And the Democrat Party is truly becoming a full-blown Communist Party.
Karoline Leavitt goes straight at Democratic Party leaders, accusing them of losing any real grip on their own base. She argues the party has veered so far left that even longtime figures like Chuck Schumer now seem misaligned with the activists they once guided. In her telling, the most extreme factions have taken over. Rather than leadership shaping priorities, it's the loudest and most radical voices, online and on the streets, dictating direction. Leavitt claims Democratic officials are now being pushed aside in real time because they're deemed insufficiently woke by their own supporters. One poorly chosen line, one hint of moderation, and they're instantly labeled sellouts or traitors. To her, this infighting reveals a party consuming itself, fixated on purity tests instead of governing. And as Democrats turn on one another, Leavitt says voters are paying attention. Many are quietly disengaging from a party that no longer seems to know who it stands for.
Men in women's sports is something MAGA Republicans and frankly the whole country rejects. It's a 90-10 issue, taxing people to death and taking their money and giving the majority of your income back to the government. That's a horrible idea that has not worked for thousands of years. MAGA Republicans know it, and that's why they overwhelmingly voted to re-elect President Trump.
Karoline steps in with surgical precision, completely shredding AOC's assertion that MAGA voters secretly regret backing Donald Trump. She doesn't merely wave it off. She calls for receipts, actual names, concrete figures, hard evidence, and by her account, none of that is forthcoming. Rather than leaning on fuzzy anecdotes or social media daydreams, Karoline lays out exactly why millions of Americans supported Trump in the first place. It wasn't random. It was a response, a backlash to aggressive woke agendas pushed by the DNC that left everyday voters frustrated and confused. Many Americans rejected men competing in women's sports, questioned medical transitions for minors, and remain uneasy with the party's slide toward open socialism. Karoline makes it clear that brushing off those concerns won't erase them. It only pushes more voters away. And if Democrats continue down that path, she warns the fallout could be brutal.
MAGA Republicans know it, and that's why they overwhelmingly voted to re-elect President Trump. And a Democrat that you had in your monologue actually was right about one thing. I don't know his name, but I give him credit for his statement where he said that the Republican Party under President Trump is the party of the working man and woman. And because of President Trump's pro-growth, America First policies, he has spoken directly to the hearts of the forgotten men and women across this country. And that's who the Republican Party is today, thanks to him.
She nails it, and this is the reality Democrats still won't confront. Trump didn't win by courting Twitter praise or elite validation. He spoke straight to middle America, to swing voters, to people who felt ignored, patronized, and squeezed from all sides. He tapped into working class frustration, people anxious about jobs, prices, safety, and stability, using language they actually understood. At the same time, Kamala Harris and the DNC aimed almost exclusively at coastal elites, corporate donors, and the loudest woke corners of the internet. Instead of focusing on kitchen table concerns, voters were handed lectures, labels, and moral grandstanding. That gap mattered. When ordinary Americans felt dismissed or mocked, Trump made them feel seen and heard, even if they didn't agree with him on everything. In the end, elections aren't won with virtue signaling or polished talking points. They're won by connecting with real people living real lives. And that connection is where Trump succeeded and where the DNC came up short.
Well, we'll have to see. And I'm very curious. I'll have to find out from our great Attorney General Pam Bondi if the Trump DOJ is continuing this investigation that the Biden DOJ launched. Jesse, it's a good question, and we will get on that. But as for Gavin Newsom, I was not surprised to see him in Brazil, traveling the world, probably on the taxpayer dime, talking about climate change when his state, California, has some of the highest energy costs in the entire country.
Karoline Leavitt also turns her fire toward Gavin Newsom, zeroing in on what she describes as pure political hypocrisy. She slams Newsom for endlessly preaching about saving the planet while overseeing one of the most expensive energy landscapes anywhere in the nation. Leavitt argues it's easy to deliver climate sermons from a podium, while ordinary families are forced to swallow crushing electricity and gas bills just to keep their homes running. She says Newsom's green agenda may sound virtuous on paper, but it falls apart in real life. especially for working-class Californians who can't afford solar panels, electric vehicles, or high-end alternatives. Rather than making life greener, she contends these policies are making it costlier and harder to live. Leavitt casts it as a textbook elite disconnect, politicians pushing feel-good environmental rhetoric while regular people absorb the financial hit. In her view, Californians aren't rejecting environmental responsibility. They're rejecting leaders who put ideology ahead of affordability and basic common sense.
They have some of the highest gasoline prices in the entire country, despite President Trump's efforts. And they are working to bring down oil and gas prices in this country, to drill baby drill, to unleash American energy dominance. Gavin has done so much damage to his state with the Green New scam and with this utopian pursuit of climate change that is just so false. It's built on a fallacy that he has run up energy costs in his state that people are fleeing his state.
Karoline is spot on, and the signs are impossible to ignore. Families and businesses are fleeing California in growing numbers, fed up with crushing taxes, endless red tape, and stifling bureaucracy. For small business owners, it's an uphill slog every single day. Permits, compliance fees, and towering tax bills pile up until the numbers just don't add up. Meanwhile, Newsom, in Karoline's view, seems unconcerned. Rather than easing the strain or rethinking policy, he doubles down, tightening the squeeze on businesses in the name of ambitious goals and political optics. The outcome is predictable. Companies relocate to states with lower taxes, fewer obstacles, and friendlier business climates. Karoline calls it a leadership failure, plain and simple. Jobs leave, communities falter, and tax bases shrink. Yet California's leaders act perpetually surprised by consequences anyone with eyes could foresee. At some point, she insists, denial stops being leadership and starts looking a lot like indifference.
So maybe he should leave Brazil and stop talking about this issue that is hurting his own people and get back to governing what was once a beautiful state of California that people are fleeing en masse because of his horrific energy and economic policies that have made the cost of living in California completely out of control.
Yeah, the climate scam's kind of like DEI. It's dead, and it's never coming back.
As Karoline has basically voiced what millions of Californians are already thinking, Gavin Newsom needs to stop chasing headlines and start tackling what actually matters to the people in his state. That means getting serious about the crushing cost of living that forces families into impossible choices every month. It means cutting back the bloated bureaucracy that slows everything down, drives up expenses, and strangles small businesses before they can thrive. It also means boosting reliable energy production instead of pushing policies that make power costlier and less dependable. And above all, it means easing the tax burden that keeps driving residents and employers out of California. Karoline's message is clear. Leadership isn't about grand rhetoric or national posturing. It's about making life more affordable and sustainable for everyday people. Until Newsom realigns his priorities around those basics, the exodus will continue, and Californians will keep paying the price for political obstinacy. When you step back, the pattern is obvious. Democrats like AOC and Gavin Newsom keep serving up excuses, slogans, and narratives while voters demand tangible results. Karoline Leavitt cuts through the noise. People didn't flock to Trump because of Fox News or misinformation. They did it because their lives grew harder, pricier, and more unstable. The DNC's obsession with woke purity tests, soaring taxes, and ideological crusades has left working Americans behind. Instead of listening, party leaders double down and act surprised when voters walk away. Until Democrats face the real reasons people are fed up, no spin will stop the political backlash that's already in motion. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this.